Okay, we're on 331. And think at 331. Okay, question 1 says, which ordered pair lies inside the polygon and is located on quadrant 4? So we've got our quadrants labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this needs to be memorized. Okay, quadrant 4. So let's think about quadrant 4. In quadrant 4 are the x numbers, right? Which is going to be these. Are they going to be positive or negative? Look at these numbers. Are these positive or negative? Hold on. Y'all are getting confused. Okay, look at along the x. The x numbers are going to be positive. What are the y numbers going to be? So we need a positive x and a negative y. So if it's not a positive x and a negative y, you can mark it off. So which ones can we get rid of?
A.
And what else?
C and D.
A and C, because they both have negative x's, right? So we're left with this B and D. So now we can figure out which one of those is going to be inside the polygon. That just means which one's going to be inside the shape. Okay? So when we look at the shape, okay? Now, what do we have between 0 and 1 on this graph? You see how there's lots of lines between the 0 and 1? That just means we're going to have fractions on here. Okay, so how many lines are there to get from 0 to 1? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes? There's 4 spaces between 0 and 1. So that means these lines are broken up into fourths. So this would be 1/4, 2/4, which is just a half, 3/4, and then 1 whole. That makes sense? So this would be 1/4. This would be 2/4 or 1/2, 3/4, and then 1. And then it would go from there. It would be 1 and 1/4, 1 and 1/2, 1 and 3/4, 2. Kind of make sense? So when we're looking at these, we have 3/4, negative 1/2. So we're going to graph it just like normal. We're going to go over to the 3/4, which would be how many spaces? 1, 2, 3, because it's 3 out of 4 spaces. And then down 1/2, and 1/2 is going to be down 2 spaces. 1, 2. So this is going to be our B. Is that inside the polygon? And then D would take you over 1/2 and down 3/4, and that would put you here. Is that inside the polygon? Number 2 says, which ordered pair does not represent a vertex of the polygon? What is a vertex?
The corner.
Yeah, a point. Okay? A vertex is going to be a point. What if it said edge? Do you know what an edge is? Like a line. But a vertex are going to be these points. So which one does not represent a vertex? So let's graph these points. Negative 3/4, negative 1/2. So we're going to go to the over negative 3/4. Again, that's going to be 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And negative 1/2 is going to be down 2 spaces. 1, 2. Is that a vertex?
Yes.
I'm going to even put a label and label that point A. 1/4, 2.5. So I'm going to go over to the 1/4, which is going to be 1. And then I'm going to jump to 2.5. So I'm going to go all the way up to the 2. And then that 1/2 will be 2 more spaces. 1, 2. Is that a vertex? That's point B. I went over 1/4. And then I went up 2.5. Well, to get to 2, I had to jump all the way to the 2. And then I went halfway, which is 2 more spaces. H says negative 1.5, 1 3/4. So we're going to go to negative 1.5, which is going to be right between negative 1 and negative 2. And then it says to go up 1 3/4. 1 is here, and then I'm going to go up 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Is that a point? No, that is not a vertex on that shape. So C should be your answer. I'm sorry, H should be your answer. I'm sorry, I just realized I was labeling these A, B, C, and they're actually F, G, H. And then J is 1, -3/4. And if you graph that, it's going to put you right here. So our answer should be H.
You're kind of losing me.
Number 3 said, which point is located on the perimeter of the polygon? The perimeter of the polygon is going to be what? The outside. The outside. The perimeter of the polygon is going to be the outside. So I am actually going to try to let you guys figure this out. And I am going to work it, and then you can check it. Because I want you to kind of get used to the feel of what it's like working with halves and fourths. And I'm going to mark these out. And then I'll label them as I point them so you can check and see. I'll do it in green so maybe y'all can see better. I'll zoom in so y'all can see better. Keep going. And if you look at the green on the board, that's kind of where my points are. This one's a little tricky, right? Did you see how they're putting them right next to that line? Okay, so you really have to pay attention. Because like if you weren't paying attention, and isn't C super close? But you see how you can see where they actually cross on C? If you look closely, you can actually see where the two lines cross. You see what I'm talking about? Up under the green right here. You can see where they cross. So that line is not directly on top of that point because it's not directly on top of where those two lines meet. Does that make sense what I'm saying? If it is going to be directly on top of there, it's going to actually cover up that crossing point. So when you look at point D, you can see a little better that we actually can't see where those two lines are touching and crossing because they're covered by the line. So that means that would be the exact point. Okay? Does that make sense? So when you're looking for stuff like you're looking for which point or which line, just remember you don't want to see whatever it is that it's covering because that means it's right on that point. If you can actually see the point where the two lines cross, like where they where they come to that T in the middle, then it's not quite exact yet. Okay, does that help you some? Okay, so and now we're going to kind of shift over here to 4 and 5. D. D was the answer. Which ordered pair best represents a point on Tia's route to the store? Okay, so we've got a graph. It says the route Tia takes from her house to different places are represented on the grid. So we've got our house up here. We can see a route to the school, a route to the park, and a route to the store. Yes? So which line are we going to look at? The one to the store. Okay, then it gives us different points. So I'm actually going to let you guys do this. Okay, look at the graph before we get started. What is each line by? Okay, they've labeled it by 2s. But between 0 and 2, there's how many lines? So what does each actual line represent? 1. Yes? So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So there's no lines that actually represent halves or fourths or anything on this graph, is there? Okay, so now you can use that. Go through and see if you can find a point on here on the way to the store. And I will graph them as well, so feel free to check it with mine. Okay, but I want you guys to have a chance to get to the answer on your own. And I'm going to graph these in orange. So if we're talking about a half on this graph, is it going to be on the line or between some lines? It's going to actually be between some lines because these lines don't go by halves, they go by wholes. So when it says -2.5, it wants you to go right between those two lines. So what's it going to be? G. G, very good.
But you got a point.
It doesn't matter. It's saying which one best represents a point on the store. So they don't have to have an actual dot on it for it to be a point. That would be more like a vertex. It just means which one falls along there, right? Everything on this line is a point on the line. It's just not bolded. That makes sense, kind of. She's still going to cross over that point, right? Okay. And number 5. Each unit on the grid represents 1 mile. For Tia to travel from the park to the library, she must go 3 miles south and 5 miles west, which represents the coordinates of the library. Okay, so let's talk about north, south, east, and west. Which direction is north? Up. South is where? East.
East is on this side, on the right, and then the west is on
And then west is on the left. Okay. So she's going from the park to the library. Okay. So what's our starting point going to be? The park. So find the park. It says she goes 3 miles south. So we're going to go 3 in what direction? Look at our thing. If we're going 3 miles south, we're going 3 miles down, or 3 spaces down. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to go 5 miles west, which means we're jumping 5 in which direction, left or right? Left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
-0.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm very sure.
Okay, so we landed right on the line of -8. However, we know we can cross out B and D, right? Because 10 has nothing to do with it. What is going to be 0 and what is going to be -8? We've got to figure out which one is 0 and which one is -8, our x or our y. So when we look at this point, where is that at along our x-axis or along our side to side? Where's it at along our x? When you trace this when you trace this dot all the way back up to the x, where does it land? On the 0. So our x value is 0. So our first value is what? No. Then the -8 falls on what line? It falls along the y-axis. So our y point is -8. Do you think they did that on purpose?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. So our answer will be A. To see how well you know the material. Okay, I want you to go to page. I'll throw you for a loop. Go to page 336. Okay, we're going to talk about this page for a minute. This is going to be your homework. I'm going to try to give you some time to go over it in class. So, just this page, I know it starts with number 7. You can kind of ignore that. Plot a point that lies on, when a line is over 2 points like that, it just represents a line. So this means line AB. So it would be talking about the line that starts at A and goes to B. Okay? And label it Q. So, come up here to this line. To line AB, pick a point and label it Q. Any point you want. You don't have to do mine. But then, you're going to have to come up with the coordinates. Remember, your X comes first, then your Y. The way you're going to do this, take your point. You're going to follow it back to the x-axis and see where you land. That's your x value. Then you're going to take your point. You're going to follow it over to your y value. That's your y value. Okay? 9 says, list the ordered pairs for each labeled point that lies in quadrant 2. So you're going to want to know your quadrants. What it means by the points labeled, it means that they have a letter beside them. How many of them are actually in quadrant 2?
Oh, you just gotta name the letters.
When it says the labeled point, that means the point that are labeled with a letter or a name or something. Okay, so when we look in quadrant 2, how many of these points have labels?
2.
Just 2. Okay, so you're gonna trace them back to the X, figure out their X value. Okay, then you're gonna trace them back over to the Y and name their Y value. Okay, I will help you with one of these. Let's look at point E. Okay, when we take E and we trace it back to our X. What I mean by trace it back is just follow the line until you land on the X axis. Well, the X is here. So if I trace this back to the X, where do I land? -3 is my X. And if I trace it back to my Y, I land where? What's between 0 and 1? 1/2 or 0.5, either way. And then you can do the same thing on F. Okay. 10 says list an ordered pair that lies on the circle and is inside the rectangle. So that means, looking at our circle, it wants one of these points right here, guys. Something inside here. Now make it easy on yourselves and try to find something where it maybe crosses or is like halfway between. Okay, I would probably go right here because I can see that it crosses the lines evenly. Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all cannot see.
Is it quadrant 3?
No. When it says, it's talking about inside this rectangle here. A point that's on the circle but is inside the rectangle. So I'd probably look for one that crosses at an even line. See right here where it crosses right in the middle, but it's still inside the rectangle. See what I'm talking about? That's probably the point I would use, just because it will be easy to figure out what your point is. You don't have to use that exact one, but if not, you could be dealing with fourths. It'll be hard to be exact. List one ordered pair that lies inside the circle and is located in quadrant 4. So that means inside the circle is here, but quadrant 4 is all this, yes? So if we're looking for the space inside the circle, but in quadrant 4, we've basically got this right here to work with, don't we? And you can pick one. 12 says, plot a point that could be used to complete a rectangle that is twice the area of the triangle. Mark it out.
13.
Mark out 12.
12, 13, 14.
Mark out 13. We're going to do those together tomorrow before you turn this in. And then 14 says, in which quadrant does point J lie? And that's for you to figure out.